everybody's gonna sit and listen to you say everything that you need to say. It's someone else's turn to talk at some point. Khaki. What is up, guys? Welcome back. So today we're finally doing the Q&A that I have been teasing on my Instagram for like weeks. I keep being like, guys, I'm gonna do a Q&A, send me questions. And I always do this. I always end up with like 3 prompts over the course of like a month that I end up drawing questions from. But I just put one fresh one up today and you guys sent me such good questions. So I'm gonna start there. We're gonna do like, I don't know, just catch up on life stuff. You guys have asked me such awesome, sweet, cool questions, like stuff that I've been wanting to talk about anyway. And then I will also refer back to the older prompts to see if like there's anything that I missed. So, I don't know, guys, I love watching a Q&A. I hope you do too. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. Okay, so jumping right into the questions here. Things by the Burke, who is a friend of mine here on the platform, asks, what are you most excited to do again post-pregnancy? She's also pregnant, so we commiserate a lot. She's like, I don't know, like 12 weeks behind me or something like that. Anyway, there are a few things that I'm really excited to do after pregnancy. One is wear my old wardrobe. I am so excited about it. I love dressing for fall and for winter, and it's probably my favorite time to shop for too, because when it's as hot as it is outside in Austin in the summertime, getting dressed like isn't that fun. But the other thing that kind of makes me excited about getting dressed is the fact that I feel like pregnancy has done a really positive thing for my self-image. Like, for example, I am never again going to take my body for granted. Like being in shape, being able to move around and feeling like I can, you know, have enough energy to go for a run or like, you know, do all the things that I need to do. That's something that I'm going to value so much more going forward. That, and we've talked about this, but like learning to love a moving target. I used to be so strict about like how my body was supposed to look. And now I'm just excited to have it back to normal, but also to just kind of see where it lands. You know, it's like, are my hips gonna be really big now? Like, is it gonna make my waist look smaller by association? I have no idea, but like I'm willing to embrace the change. And that is a mindset that I have never been in before about my body. And so I think that that is like a really positive thing that pregnancy's done for my self-image. And I'm also really excited to do something like have a Bloody Mary. That was like something that my mom said was the first thing she had after she gave birth to me, was like she had her brother bring her a Whopper and a Bloody Mary. And I'm like, oh, Bloody Mary sounds so good. Do you plan on getting an epidural? Anything you're doing to prep for labor? So yes, I do plan on getting an epidural. And this is totally like just, I guess, anecdotal or like me kind of collecting anecdotes from other people. But everything that I watched like Sarah's Day, I watched Femhead, I watched Aspen Ovard, like all of these people who had kind of different birthing plans like going into it. Some of them planned to get an epidural, some of them didn't. And the ones who didn't plan for an epidural had a horrible time until they caved in and got an epidural. And then they had a really semi-smooth time of it. Like the baby showed up at that point. And so I watched Aspen Ovard get an epidural right when she got there, and she had a baby within like 4 hours. And I was like, this just might be confirmation bias, but yeah, I always wanted to do an epidural, and it seems like it's the right answer for me. And as far as anything to prepare myself for labor, I've said this in the past, this is probably naive for me to say, but I am so not nervous about labor that I really haven't been thinking about it at all. I think that the pregnancy part has been so annoying and difficult that the labor part, no matter how it goes, is just gonna be a relief, because I'm gonna have a baby when it's over. Like, it's all that this has been leading up to. Not a question, but a statement. You are gorgeous and you are rocking that bump. Thanks, girl. Some days feel more like I'm rocking it than others, but I really appreciate it. Have you started to pack a hospital bag? No. Me and Mike keep talking about it. And we're like, we need to do that. And then we just haven't. And it's like definitely going to sneak up on us and not be that awesome. So I probably need to get busy on that. What's keeping you sane right now? Bed does not count. Wow, you watch a lot of my content. Thank you. You are awesome. You know, actually what's keeping me sane right now is my mom had a bunch of people send me the equipment to start knitting a baby blanket, and it is keeping my hands busy, and it's also super frustrating because knitting is so straightforward. And my mother, for context, owned a yarn store for years, for like 7 years, and she's an amazing teacher. You know, she basically prescribed me this remedy of like, let me give you a project to do, and I know how to knit, and I know how to purl, and I know all the basics of, you know, of knitting and how it's supposed to fundamentally work together. But that doesn't change the fact that sometimes stuff just doesn't work like you think it's going to. And so for people who out there who do knit, I've been having trouble, for example, on this baby blanket, because I will knit, purl the middle, and then knit the, like on either border. And then when I go to follow with a line of knitting, the transition between the knit and purl like stitches, I've added a stitch somewhere, and my mom can't figure out how I'm doing it, and so my baby blanket is just doing this. And I made a hole the other day, yesterday actually. My mom, I had to send her all of these pictures of like the knitting close up, and she was coaching me through how to fix it, and it was incredibly frustrating because, I mean, obviously she knows what she's talking about, but I don't know what she's talking about. And I was like, Mom, this is basically like the equivalent of me, like, telling you how to cut your husband's hair remotely, and me saying something like, oh yeah, you can work with an open guard, just pretend that your fingers are the comb. And she's like, yeah, that makes no sense to me. I'm like, exactly. So you're speaking this like she's like, you know, think of it like a crochet stitch. I'm like, I don't know how to crochet either, Mom. Like, you know, so it has been giving me something to do with my hands. Fortunately, you guys know this, I am not a perfectionist at all, but it is slightly bothering me that my blanket it's going to be a rhombus, I think. Are you planning on moving in the future? You always say don't move to Texas. I get like some version of this question all the time because I have been alluding to that. I've lived here for 11 years. I moved to Austin because I was so excited about Austin. When I like first visited here in college, I thought that it was just like the greatest place in the world, the land of youth and creativity, and it absolutely was at the time. And it also fostered my growth through my career. The city has always cradled my ambitions. I started out as a hairstylist, and then I moved into being like a contract blogger that moved into marketing, that moved into like the position that I'm in now. And it's all dovetailed so nicely in a way. And I moved to Kansas City for 1 year and experienced exactly what it's like for a place not to cradle your ambitions. And I was like, oh my gosh. So I got here as fast as I could. But Austin, I feel like we've outgrown it. That's all. My dad told me when I was talking about moving here when I was in college, he goes, it's a really tough place to grow up. And I was like, what are you talking about? You grew up in Miami. He goes, no. It's a tough place to become a grown-up. And it is. It's very good for the age that Mike and I were when we first moved here. And now that we're in our mid-30s, like, we kind of just want to go someplace that's a little less crowded and that the weather is better. That's the main thing, is just like the summers are just abusive. And so we are looking at North Carolina because it is halfway between Florida and New Jersey. His family's in New Jersey, mine's in Florida, right there in the middle. Plus, we love mountains, he loves hiking, I like rain, we love temperate weather. And like, yes, the West Coast is appealing for all of those same reasons, but at the same time, that's like really far from our families, and we're having a baby. We want to be, you know, more accessible for everybody. My sister lives in Atlanta. It would be great if she could drive to see us. It'd be nice if we could all drive to see each other within a day, kind of thing. So that is the calculus right now. But my husband's job, like, he's very high up at his company and he takes his job extremely seriously. And so like, it is not a position right now where we can like move or be flexible with our location. So that's like not for a while. It's just not for a while. And so we just kind of have to like, you know, muscle through. But it's nice because it gives us kind of a North Star. You know, it's like we both have decided at this point like what we want ultimately, and we're also saving towards it. Like, it's fun to just kind of like have this little like, you know, nest of money that's like, okay, well, we're just, you know, this is our like treat to ourselves. We're gonna like buy ourselves our forever home at some point. So yeah, that's basically like where we're at on that. But like, we can't pick up and move today. And we wouldn't be able to anyway. Baby and virus. How do you feel about the 2020 election? Normally I would just kind of like skate right over a question like that Because, you know, people don't really want to talk about politics when they're talking, like when they came here for beauty. But the cat's out of the bag on, you know, my like affiliation on these kinds of things. I will just say, I think a lot of people tie too much emotion to a candidate, and it's really not about whether you relate to that person. To me, it is just a job interview, and we've had 4 years of 45 showing us what he can do, and based on his performance, I would not rehire him. That's all. What steps have you taken to become independent and secure in yourself? Wow, that's a doozy, isn't it? I gotta think on that for a second. I think that the biggest thing is not being willing to compromise on your own happiness. Constantly taking inventory of your life and saying, am I happy? If I make a change, what would I leave behind and what would I take with me? That has been my mental state, my philosophy every time that I went from a job to another job or a pursuit to another pursuit or decided on a side hustle or something like that. It was always, I'm unhappy, let's isolate why. What do I like about where I'm at right now and what would I want to change? And then that informed, you know, that kind of gave me a new perspective on like what my next set of options were. And to the outside, like I get criticism from a lot of kind of like the, you know, boomer generation in my family of saying things like you quit a lot. And I'm like, I don't quit a lot. I just move on quickly. And it's mainly just because I'm extremely decisive, sometimes to my detriment. Like I have learned that it isn't about whether I had the right marketing job, for example. It was the fact that I am actually not very good at having a boss. And that's just my personality, but also knowing that that doesn't mean you quit your job right this second. It means you figure it out and you go with the flow until you can figure out how to make your reality match what you want, like more closely. And so that has always been my mindset, but I think it comes from a place of like Aries selfishness and feeling like I deserve to be happy. And I think selfish is some people think it's a bad word, and I don't think it's a bad word. You know, there are probably better words for it, you know, but like just seeing your own self-worth and understanding that like you're not going to be able to pour from an empty cup. You have to fulfill yourself, and there is a huge responsibility to fulfill yourself in order to feel worthy to then give yourself to other people in order to interact with the world. Because if you are not kind of right on the inside, it's going to reverberate in everything that you do. And so I have always like, and over the years, honestly, like gotten better at practicing at it, gotten better by practicing at it, I guess you would say, at taking inventory of like, even in small amounts, like why did that upset me? Why did that situation make me uncomfortable? Why do I feel like this is kind of going in the wrong direction for me? Journaling it out, things like that, you know, talking to people that I trust, but, you know, constantly trying to assess and be really honest with myself about whether or not I am happy and what I'm doing is honoring me, because you deserve that. Everyone deserves that. I'm not special. Is Bruce still fighting the birds? The birds won. The birds just stalk him in the backyard, bless his heart. Any plans for a maternity photo shoot? No. This is not, I know that everybody's like, take lots of pictures. I am taking pictures of myself because of my bump and like because I think that it's just a marvel. And the fact that when I was like 12 weeks, I thought I was huge, and now I look at 31 weeks and I'm like, nah girl, you was tiny. You know, like there's just something about it that is just like nice to have the perspective. But I don't even really like my wedding. I mean, no offense, but like I don't really like remembering my wedding through photos. I don't think that this is something that I'm gonna want to be like, oh, remember when I was pregnant? Like, no, it's not something I want to look back on. Sorry, I'm not a very sentimental person. I'm not, and that probably breaks a lot of people's hearts, but I'm not. Updates on heartburn meds, Lona. Oh my gosh, you might notice that I have a soul again. It's like I feel like I've reclaimed it. Prilosec. Oh my gosh, Prilosec. I take it once a day and it solves everything, and I'm feeling like a human being again. I can't believe it took my doctor 31 weeks before they decided to try it. It's not okay. Not okay. I don't have an encyclopedic knowledge in my brain of over-the-counter and prescription heartburn medications. I shouldn't have had to think of it myself. My doctor should have recommended it first. So it was like pulling teeth, just getting a different drug. Are you decorating a room for baby/baby room tour? Do y'all not know that I have a second channel? that I had literally updated you guys on like every step in the nursery. Like you guys are probably like, Kackie, that doesn't even look different. You know, I almost knocked that over and I caught it because cat-like reflexes. But yeah, no, I mean, if you are interested in that stuff, I have another channel where I'm doing all that kind of updates on my nursery and stuff like that. And so the answer is yes, and the channel is linked on my front page. It's called Poor Khaki. What does the future of your channel look like? What direction do you want to take it? So this is a variation on another question that I got around like whether I think that, you know, being a parent is going to take like a front seat in my channel at all or anything. I don't think so. I have, you know, I'm an analytical person. I've been in marketing for a long time, and I know what happens when you try and kind of like scare your audience with a whole bunch of different content than what they signed up for. I understand that like not everybody's going to want to hear a Q&A necessarily, even about my pregnancy, and that's totally 100% fine. I'm not going to like stop talking about makeup. The main thing is that, you know, my hormones and pregnancy have influenced a lot of the way that my skin behaves. And so I feel like that has influenced the things that I talk about in terms of the products that I'm using and stuff like that. But you know, that experience I think just kind of, you know, folds in naturally with the content on my channel. I still am always going to be passionate about sharing with you guys like my favorite groundbreaking products, and I still get excited about new releases. Anyway, yes, this channel, granted, I'm gonna take a break with the baby, but I actually did want to mention this. Please understand, after I have the baby, if I come back and make a video, it's for my own sanity. It is not because I feel pressured from you guys. That happened after my wedding. I didn't take my honeymoon right away. I came back right after my wedding, which was like not a really fun experience for me. And I sought solace in coming back to my normal routine and like just being done with the wedding crap. I was so excited about it. And so I started filming and people were like, what are you doing? You know, you don't need to feel like you have some responsibility to us. Like, enjoy your honeymoon. I'm like, I'm not taking my honeymoon for like 6 months. Like this is where I want to be sometimes. And so I really hope that like, you know, even though I'm going to have an odd and intermittent schedule, me posting isn't going to be perceived as something where I feel like, oh my gosh, I owe it to everybody and I'm like, you know, ignoring my baby to be here. Like I am going to probably need some normalcy in my life and a break, and like talking about makeup is therapy for me. So that's all. That's something I've had on my heart for a while that I just wanted to share. Oh my gosh, I just got this shirt in the mail from Cezanne. And it smells incredible. Like what do they have in their warehouse? Like what candle, what perfume, I don't know, but I want it. Anyone who has information on this, let me know, because I want my whole house to smell like this shirt. Like never happens. Any baby names you're liking / willing to share? Anybody who's been pregnant knows that as soon as you share a baby name, everybody's got an opinion. So I will share the baby name when the baby is named. Because even my mom and my sister piss me off, honestly. Like, I tell them the baby names that I'm thinking of, and they're like, I don't like that. And I'm just like, it's not your baby. So yeah, I'm particularly sensitive about that. Tattoo removal process and the decision to do so, please. So I've gotten a few questions about this and also about my plugs, but tattoo removal process, I highly don't recommend. I mean, it's super expensive. It's not very effective. They've probably got better technology now, but the girl who did it for me, it was at an office here in town, and I got it done, oh my God, 8 years ago, something like that. It cost $3,200. It was ridiculous, and it was extremely painful. Like, what I would imagine birth is like. Like, they ice you up to do it, and then as you're driving home, all the ice wears off. And it hurts so much you think your eyes are gonna explode. Like, you can't even like comprehend the level of pain. Yeah, so I was a real like tough cookie apparently compared to a lot of people. Like the technician was like, you're incredible, the fact that you can just do this and like it's not a big deal to you. But after the fact, like the unbelievable pain, the blistering, it was gross. And they went a little too hard on it, and so now I have a lot of hypopigmentation where it just looks like a scar. Like the pigmentation of my skin is actually gone in the shape of the tattoo. I know they have better technology now. Also, it was an old-fashioned style tattoo, so it's super deep in the skin. If you have something that's like really surface level, it's probably a lot easier to remove. What's the thing about parenting that scares you the most? when they become a toddler. I can reason with somebody who's reasonable. I can cradle something that is basically like a plant that needs to be maintained, like it's a Tamagotchi, you know what I mean? It's gonna eat, it's gonna poop, it's gonna sleep. Like I'm going to live around the clock accommodating those needs. But when it gets to running around and being unreasonable, that we've talked about this, but like that's gonna be the new one for me. That's gonna be the thing that I am going to have to do a lot of like, you know, reading up and stuff like that on like child psychology and everything, because I truly have no idea how kids work at all. So, one day at a time. That was all from the prompt today. Let's see what you guys asked a while ago. I want to know more about your stretched ears and your ear jewelry. So I buy all of my ear jewelry on like usually Etsy. You know, you just kind of search for whatever stone you think you're in the mood for, and the size that your ears are stretched to, and like that's pretty straightforward. This is called Jasper of some kind, I used to know. Most of them I like are Jasper because Jasper is very affordable. Some of the, like if you get into like real amber or something like that, it's gonna get really expensive. But yeah, I started stretching my ears when I was 15 because you're angsty when you're 15. It was just one, like, you know how there are decisions that you make about your appearance that you kind of like think on for a while, and then there are the ones where you go, nope, that's it, I'm buying those shoes kind of thing. My friend Susan in my steel drum class, yes, I can play the steel drum. I was in the steel drum band in high school, and she had her ears stretched, and I was like, ooh, 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 I want that. And she was like, I have all my old like stretching gauges, and I was like, yes. And so that kind of became this thing where it was like almost like a community of people in high school who, you know, we would just sanitize our jewelry because you can't use it after you've stretched past it, like your ears are too big. And then you just give it to someone else. And so, yeah, I surpassed Susan, and now I have 9/16. I won't pull them out for you because it's a little bit like, it's just not something everyone wants to see. And I don't wear tunnels for that reason. Plenty of people wear tunnels. It doesn't bother me at all, but especially in like a professional setting or something like that, you don't really want to see daylight through my ears. I just think it's kind of a courtesy. I don't know. That's just how I've always thought about it. Yeah, so that is why I have them, and I like them. I can't really wear earrings very well. My ears get super irritated, and this is just something I love when jewelry is like installed. I like it when it's just done, and I like deciding on it and like not thinking about it again. And so like sometimes I completely forget that I have both sides of my nose pierced. How did you and your husband meet? Okay, we met at work. He was my boss. I was dating another guy that I had met. He was in a band. We had met while he was on tour. We hit it off or whatever. I ended up moving to Kansas City, and then when I moved back to Austin, like we were still together, but things were just really not going well. He didn't want to be in Austin. He was traveling all the time for his band. It wasn't working. And so I kind of was already in this like next step mindset when I got to my job that I started in 2012, which was like my first big marketing gig, my first paid search gig, you know? And that was where I met Mike, and he and I were very, very different. He was, you know, he was what they called, you know, a bro, and I was like this like, you know, kind of indie scene kid or whatever. We ended up working on the same team, and we got into our first like one-on-one, you know what I mean? Like manager and like, you know, direct report, and we're just checking in on stuff. And it just got to be, it felt like a date. It was like, oh, you're Irish Italian? I'm Irish Italian. Oh, wow. And like, I saw that like gooey look on his face, and I was like, oh no, this is bad. You know, because I had never been put in that position before where I was just like, I'm still in a relationship, but like, I'm really, really attracted to this person. And like the attraction was in a way that it just felt like there was so much more I wanted to learn, you know? And so I didn't, you know, ever like cheat or anything like that, but I did start to feel really, really bad about the mindset of like not wanting to be in the relationship that I was in. And so I had to be honest about that. It was really hard. And I just kind of like disrupted my entire life. Right at the end of 2012, I moved out of my apartment, broke my lease, my cat died, and I broke up with my boyfriend. And I will never forget driving the like 16 hours back to Tallahassee to see my family right after the new year, because I spent Christmas by myself that year. Like it was hard. And I, took the time off like right after the new year, and I was like driving home to see my family, playing Saves the Day, like blasting it in my car. And I was like, I don't have a care in the world. I don't even live anywhere right now. And it was just this like hard restart on my life. And Mike was just so different. He was so like even-keeled and open-minded and had this really just like fun approach to life. But he was also super, super motivated. I was at the depth of my eating disorder at the time. I was like 98 pounds. It was very, very bad. And watching his motivation around exercise, because when I met him, he was training for a marathon, and seeing just how non-negotiable his routines were and how disciplined he was about exercise, but also that he was really like had a healthy mindset around everything else. And like, his whole house full of roommates, they would all cook together and eat meals together, blah, blah, blah. And it just helped me kind of like loosen my understanding of like how much control I needed over my life. And I'll never forget my friend Clover, like before she even met him, she goes, I like him. She's like my spirit guide. She goes, I like him. And I was like, why? She's like, you eat now. It was like he gave me the confidence that I needed to feel like I could balance more things in my life. And I just feel like he's always kind of been this like cheerleader for me that hears me out without judging me, because he has never had any kind of like anxiety or depression issues or anything like that. And so when I would come to him with things like that, he would just completely suspend judgment and just, just be sweet. And that was what I really needed at the time. And I mean, the way that your relationship grows when you're pregnant. I heard Raw Beauty Christie say it about her husband. She goes, I've always loved him, but now I'm obsessed with him. Like, that is exactly how I feel, because I have never felt so supported and cared for and understood as I do by him throughout my pregnancy. It is just so crazy how like I'm hard on myself and he will forgive me for being hard on myself and for the thing that I'm being hard on myself about, So we've been together. In December, it will be 8 years. In October, we will have been married for 2 years. Yeah, I just feel like the way that we met was just two forces headed towards each other. I feel like a successful relationship in my life, having done, a lot of long-term relationships, is being chemically attracted to one another enough that you can ride through all the changes together and sort out the things that need to be sorted out even when they're uncomfortable, because at the core, you have just kind of like this intangible of being super attracted to one another. And you know what I mean? He even tells me how pretty I am right now. And when I started taking the Prilosec, he was like, oh my God, you're laughing more. Your personality is so bright and vibrant again. And I'm so happy. He's like, I love you so much right now. And it just made me so happy, because it's like you realize you are more connected than just the interactions that you have over the course of your day. It's more of like someone kind of being like knowing you well enough that you kind of like share a vibration a little bit. And I love when he kind of like, opens up and tells me that stuff. He's a man of few words. And so when he tells me that kind of stuff, it just makes me feel so much more validated, because pregnancy is really, really hard. And I feel like he actually gets it. So yeah, that's how I met my husband. He was my boss. What was your childhood dream job? I had a few. I think that growing up, I thought I'm going to have to marry into royalty, because there's been a miscalculation on the front end and I'm living in the wrong life because I am actually a princess. And my parents told me, you can't marry into royalty. They're all English. They don't come shopping in America for princesses. And then I saw Meghan Markle and I was like, dang it, I was lied to. Not that I would go and, not that I'm like attracted to Prince Harry or anything like that, and not that Meghan Markle's having the best time, let's be real, my perspectives have changed, but I think I always knew I wanted to be the star of my own show, and not necessarily like a TV show, I just mean like the Kackie show, and like it's kind of hilarious that we've ended up where we are. Again, I'm just big Aries energy all the time, I always have been. Can you do a video about baby item purchases? Check out my vlog channel, guys. I've already done them. I do them all the time. This is an FAQ. I'm a new follower and I need to know, is Kackie your real name? No, it is not. My real name's Kevin. So Kackie is just the nickname I've had ever since I was an infant. So it's not something I like, you know, hipster like gave myself in high school or something like that. Not that there's anything wrong with that. You know, if you want to change your identity, knock yourself out. But I was Kevin, the girl, and I did not grow hair until I was like 3 years old. And OGs on my channel have heard this story like 3 times. I mean, I literally remember being referred to as like I was conscious. I was like old enough to make memories. And you know, people referring to me as a boy at first because I had no hair. And my mom tried to call me Casey by my initials to be like, no, let's feminize her name a little bit. My sister's only 13 months older than me and she said Khaki, and they were like, that works too. And so I've been Khaki ever since. One of my favorite questions I think I've ever gotten, because it's just such a compliment. It's so nice. How on earth did you become so articulate? Like, go straight to my ego. So I could sit here and wax poetic, right, about like all the different influences in my life, and oh, well, I'm a Gemini moon and I'm a Cancer rising, and so I just, you know, I'm like really self-expressive. The truth is, I am a chatterbox, and I have been my entire life. I talk too much, and I always talk too much, and I have always thought that everybody deserved to hear everything that was on my mind. Some call it precocious, some call it obnoxious. And so as a kid, it makes it so that you run into bad stuff more often. You offend people, you're misunderstood more often, you say things out of turn. And I think that all humans have a pursuit to be understood. And so I think it was more of like a self-preservation thing, because I tried to stop being a chatterbox, and sometimes it's just so part of your personality that the filter is just always going to have very open grates, you know? It's why editing is beautiful. It's why I don't do live streams. God bless Kate the Great. She can curate herself as she speaks, but I cannot. And so that is why editing is my friend. I think that like it has cultivated my, I don't know, constantly being drawn to, like, if I hear somebody say a word that sums up the meaning of something that I've been trying to express in like 2 sentences, I put that in like the flash drive memory on my brain where I'm like, that's important. You need to remember that, because that's going to help you better be understood by people more concisely, because not everybody's going to sit and listen to you say everything that you need to say. It's someone else's turn to talk at some point. Khaki. You learn how to kind of like, you know, find the $10 words sometimes that get the job done faster than talking your face off and annoying the crap out of everybody or boring the crap out of everybody. And so that's part of it. I also really just think it's like an art. I think that like a turn of phrase is an art. Like, for example, I think that Jackie Aina talks about makeup. I think that Nisi Pisa talks about makeup. Is that why I watch their channels? Not really. I watch them because they both have such excellent turns of phrase. I could listen to them sit there and riff on anything forever. And that is such an admirable quality to me. And my dad was really, really good with it too. My husband has just, his quips are so freaking funny. And so I am drawn to that, and sometimes I kind of borrow those things from people. Like if I hear a really good one, I'm like, that's funny, I like that, that's a really good way to express myself, and it's also funny. And so I collect those things. But finally, the other thing that's sort of the motivational factor is that I want to make actual useful content. I would love to just be a purely entertaining person, but I'm not. I don't think in terms of what's funny, you know, what's a good punchline. I think in terms of how to make content that I would find valuable. And so when I am describing something to you guys, a product, the way that it feels, the way that it behaves, what have you, I want to make sure I get as much reality across as possible as anyone could in this format, that you feel like you actually grasp how a product is performing, because that is so much more useful than me being like, I am so literally obsessed with this. Like, how does that help you? I'm one human being. I know that people care what I think, but I'm still not you. And so I can't tell you if you're gonna like it. I can tell you what it does, and then you can be like, do I like those things? That is calculus I run in my brain all the time of how to make content more useful, how to show you guys and how to articulate to you guys exactly how something behaves, because I would just hate for somebody to just be like, God, all she ever says is like, oh, this is so great. And like, then I buy it and I hate it, you know? And it's like, no, you deserve more detail than that. Otherwise, what's the point? What did you study in school and what did you do professionally? I studied art in school. I have a degree in studio art, which serves very little purpose in my life other than me sitting here talking about color theory with you. The color theory also comes from the fact that I was a hairstylist for 8 years. So those two things, I think, you wouldn't necessarily put together. It's like, oh, that's a real career builder, Kackie. Now smack some marketing on top of that. What are you gonna do? I'm gonna become a YouTuber. It actually makes perfect sense. All three of them work really, really well with what I do now. But professionally, I started out doing hair, and then I went from that to blogging for a women's interest blog about fashion and beauty. And from there, I went to becoming their managing editor. And then from there, I got into analytics because I was like, ooh, you can make money on the internet. And I wanted to help companies make money on the internet. And so I learned that paid search was actually the best way to do that. And so I applied and somehow was hired by a company that I had absolutely no qualifications for, but they offered kind of a boot camp program, and I learned white glove management of paid search like practices, essentially through like Google and Bing, and was given tons of amazing experience and responsibility, and was exposed to some of the coolest people and like the best managers I've ever had. And ever since then, I've kind of been bouncing around at other agencies and other jobs. Nothing has ever really been as good of an experience overall as that initial agency that I worked at, but at the same time, it was not perfect by any means. It's not perfect by any means, but that's where I met my husband. I was there for 4 years, and then, as I've kind of bounced from one job to the next in terms of marketing, inevitably someone's gonna ask you, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And it's usually a VP of marketing asking you that, like your boss or something like that. And I think that the answer is supposed to be, I see myself in your role, I see myself as a VP of marketing, and that's just a lie. Like, it's not where I wanted to go. I didn't want their job, I didn't want their life, I didn't want to be doing that in 5 years. And that was, again, it kind of harkens back to the thing I said in the beginning. You realize that you're not happy because it wasn't about the job. I realized it wasn't about the job. It was about the nature of having a boss, working a 9 to 5, and there was just this part of my brain that was like, who are these people that get to go to Target in the middle of the day? Why can't I have that flexibility? I'm good at my job. Why can't I do what I want to do when I'm not working? And it just always drove me crazy that I had to sit there and stare at a screen even when I was done doing what I needed to do. I had to like pretend to be busy. It made me crazy. That was something that I wanted to leave behind. I said, you know what? I want to have time flexibility because I am disciplined enough of a human being that I can do my work and also do my life, and I can do them at a high standard of quality without disappointing anybody, but that I don't need somebody standing on me to do it, And so I forfeited the notion of like having company benefits and things like that. To be honest, I really hate company perks. They drive me crazy. There's like, oh, we have a fully stocked kitchen full of snacks. I'm like, I don't care. I can go to Costco, it's stupid. Yeah, company culture has never been like super appealing to me. I don't like drinking the Kool-Aid. I'm not a team player. It's like the criticism that I've gotten at every corporate job I've ever been at. They're like, you're not really a team player. I'm like, I'm not really a team player. I'm not. And so, I don't blame anybody for telling me that I don't fit in a place like that, because I don't. And I finally had to just come to terms with that. I was like, I don't fit in here. This is not my gig. This is not where I belong. Anyway, I started my channel in 2014. LOL, my channel. I bounced around to a lot of different topics because I had a lot of very strange feelings about beauty at the time. And it took me a really long time to come back around to, I can do beauty my way. And that was when I really dug in 2018 and was like, this is what I want to do. But I still do work part-time, like contract work for certain clients, doing marketing work because I'm good at it. I like managing paid search. Like I'm good at it, and I'm good at forging really strong relationships with clients. I really like my clients. I like my team, and I don't mind the like 20 hours a week that I'm working for them right now, maybe 15 to 20. It's great, you know? And I honestly just really like, again, providing value. And so when clients tell me like, we really appreciate you, you've provided a lot of value for our company, that gives me just as much satisfaction as you guys really, really appreciating a recommendation that I made on a beauty item, you know? And I feel like that, like the source of the satisfaction, the job satisfaction, comes from the same place. And I just had to kind of dig in on that, you know, like figure out what gives me job satisfaction, because the whole like being a team player thing does it for some people, and growing through the ladder does it for some people, and it just didn't do it for me, and I had to figure out what did it for me. Oh my God, what a sweet question. How can I be a better viewer? Recent pet peeves, how can I support you better? Okay, you don't need to feel necessarily like you like owe me anything. You don't. If your eyeballs are on my videos, that's perfectly fine. The only thing that I would say that I would like enlighten people on, if they don't realize that it is the biggest pain in the neck from any creator's standpoint, is what I call the drive-by. The drive-by is a comment where someone says something semi-judgmental or crappy, as if maybe no one's gonna read it. So for example, Kackie posted something because she did this whole really heartfelt video on healing her acne, and her acne has been very, very bad. I highly recommend going and watching the video. It's very, very good. And someone left a comment that just says, wow, that acne was really bad. You should have cut out dairy. And she just said, F you. And I was like, dude, that's the worst kind of comment on the internet. It is not the trolls. It is not the critics. It is not the people who write novels and like, you know, ask really elaborate questions and are like, you know, really highly engaged. Like I can appreciate just about any curiosity around a video. It is the I don't give a crap comments that are just hurtful for no reason like that. It's so flippant, you know, and it's just so, it's such a disregard for the fact that the other person on the other end of the video is a human that it makes you want to just throw it in. It's just so, it's so infuriating. And a lot of times they will also be in the form of why they're leaving. They'll be like, well, this didn't do so-and-so, I'm never coming back to this channel. And I'm like, then just leave. It's a big internet, you know what I mean? I don't need to know why you left. Like, I get it that it gave you some kind of satisfaction. Type it in the box and then delete it. I'm gonna delete it. Like, why did you need to share that big negative energy with everybody else? It just, yeah. And I used to engage with it, but, and like try and, you know, have a conversation with people. And then you realize that it just poisons your day too. And so, I don't know. I've definitely gotten to where I read the comments for like the first couple hours after a video goes up, and then I stop, because sometimes it can really mess with you, but it's never the people who truly care. It's always the people who just feel like they need to say something. Who knows what kind of day they're having, and it's just, it's hard to describe, so I hope that example kind of like, you know, gave you an idea of it, but those are the most frustrating comments. Okay, and I got a couple, I'll kind of close it out on this. I got a couple of astrology questions. One is, what's your moon and rising signs? Which my moon is in Gemini and my rising is Cancer. And someone else asked, what do you do to find your rising sign? And what if you don't relate to your sun sign? And my sister doesn't relate to her sun sign. She's a Pisces, and I've got news for her. She's still a Pisces, okay? But her rising is Libra, and she identifies so much more with her rising sign. Your rising sign is supposed to be kind of the mask that faces the world kind of thing. Like, I feel like my rising sign being Cancer means that I'm like a pretty good listener, and I really like to relate to people, but it's not my drive in life. Like, your sun sign has mostly to do with your drive in life, and so like me being an Aries, like I'm ruled by Mars. I have this like crazy motivation to just constantly move forward. And like that gives me a ton of satisfaction in life. Standing still is like my worst nightmare. And so that to me is like the meaning of your sun sign. It's not necessarily like everything. And she did ask how to get that. You can go on anything. You can go on Cafe Astrology. You can go on Chani Nicholas. I love her. If you want to learn more about astrology, read You Were Born for This. It's so good. It's such a great starting primer on how to understand the sky and how it pertains to you. It's so, so good. Yeah, you can go in there. You basically just need when you were born, where you were born, and what time you were born. That's going to give you your rising sign. And I totally understand that not everybody's into astrology. I think that it's fun, and I think that it is about as valuable as like a personality test, you know, if you're like an Enneagram person or like Myers-Briggs or something like that. I find that there are enough correlations that it does help me to better understand people. And I also just like knowing the cosmic weather. I like knowing that, like, you know, a new moon happened on the 18th, and that was why we felt a lot of shifts in, you know, one part of our life or another. Or, you know, that we're in Leo season, which feels very different from upcoming Virgo season. Oh God, we're in Virgo season, aren't we? Those kinds of things to me, like, bring it down to earth, so to speak. But I could wax poetic. Cafe Astrology, Chani Nicholas, you can get, you know, your full chart that way. Or you can just go on CoStar. CoStar is the astrology app that a lot of people use, but warning, it's an AI app. And so sometimes the words don't make sense. And I'm just kind of like, what? So, you know, just kind of take it with like a giant dose of salt. And then there are also things called decads. Decads are kind of like the segments of each sign. They're like broken up into thirds that actually dictate like why an Aries born at the beginning of Aries season is different from the middle of Aries season, is different from the end of Aries season kind of thing. So yeah, it is. It's kind of like a holistic understanding of all of it, which I'm definitely not an expert on, but I really, truly enjoy learning about. So yeah, I will link that book below if you're interested. So that was like scratching the surface, trying to sum up a lot of the questions that you guys asked. Like a lot of people asked very similar questions kind of thing, but I'm officially like out of hydration and out of words and out of air. So yeah, those are the Q&As for today's. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you want to keep hanging out with me on this channel, hit the button down below and subscribe. I would love it if you guys did. Thank you so much for being engaged enough to care about my life. Like, there is never a moment where I'm filming where I just get like an ego about me or like get cocky where I'm just like, everyone loves me. Look at all these people asking me questions. I'm still mind blown all the time that people are like, how are you doing? How's your pregnancy? I'm just like, you guys are so nice. I can't believe you care. This is so awesome. So thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. But thank you also for watching and for hanging out with me today, guys. I love you so much. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.